is the HardParkingPodcast brought to you by Honda out of Scottsdale, Arizona. I am your host, Jay Finning. A lot of stuff to unpack. Kyle Rittenhouse verdict, I have thoughts on that case. The Integra was recently revealed. Lots of thoughts on that. Also, 35 minutes with Wayne Raqueno. He is an event organizer, done over 700 car events since the 90s. Has had some health scares lately, and he was completely blind for 90 days. He's down to one eye as it is. Also, find out why I called him the squirrel whisperer. Jumping right into it. You guys know that this is the society and culture aspect of this podcast. It's not the same on every episode. Every other episode is cars or society and culture, at least with the opening. And I've spoken to some of you about this. And it's one of those things where it's okay to have an opinion. And I offer mine. Every time something, even outside of the world of cars, is kind of a major thing that's kind of moving the needle in our society, and it's not celebrity gossip, I try to weigh in when I need to. You know, a lot of you guys joined based on my Father's Day episode that I did in 2020. And that means a lot to me that I can talk about real life events and have people actually have it resonate with people in such a way where it offers a sense of perspective, might offer a different point of view other than that of which, you know, you've known yourself growing up. And when it comes to big issues like George Floyd, maybe a different mindset. And I walk the line a lot because I live my life down the middle. I'm an even-keeled person for the most part. And I try to, regardless of what my wife says, I try to see both sides of every conversation. I try to embrace the conversation and at least understand where people are coming from, even if it's not of the same viewpoint. So with the Kyle Rittenhouse thing, you have, first off, going into it, you have two, of all the opinions that people offer, there are two levels of extremes, as with most major things that seem to rock our society. A video was recently sent to me. It was of a bar, and they were watching it all together. And as soon as they announced the verdict, the entire bar erupted in cheer as if their team just hit the game-winning field goal in the Super Bowl. Their player just hit the buzzer-beating shot for the national championship or the NBA Finals championship. This isn't for that group of people. Because if you're rooting so hard for a success in a court case that has nothing to do with you personally, nothing to do with your personal family or people you know, this isn't for you. On the other end, you have the people who have an instant reaction to the verdict because you don't think he should have been there to begin with. You're anti-guns. You're anti-this. You think if it was first off, let me qualify this next statement because I understand. We live in a society, we have a judicial system that has been notoriously, factually proven corrupt, where you are locking up the wrong people for life, the wrong people sentenced to death, the wrong people for committing crimes that they were nowhere near. Yes, there are a lot of black people wrongfully convicted of crimes. It's factual. If our judicial system was perfect, you wouldn't move a trial from point A to point Z because everything in between, you can't trust that you're going to have a fair trial. People have their own agendas. People sitting on juries have their own agendas, even if they pass the initial screening. Judges, cities, they have their own agenda. And so I understand that. I understand that mindset of saying, well, if this were a black person, he would have been convicted. He may have been killed on the street because history shows us that that's very possible. But if you can't separate that from the facts of this case, then this isn't for you. Or maybe it is. Maybe it is for the people who say, woo, we won. We won our gun freedom. This case had nothing to do with people losing their ability to have guns. This was not that case. And there's a lot of people that are cheering that he got off on all charges because it's all about the guns. No one's going to come take your AR-15 had he been proven guilty. Had he been convicted of murder, no one was going to come take your guns. So with that being said, let's just look at this case. These type of things are always interesting to me. And those of you who have been with me long enough understand that I read I watch. I fact check. I don't just read a tweet and repost it. I don't just look at a Facebook post. I don't just repost something that a friend of mine says and I said, okay, I agree with you because you're my friend and I know you know what you're talking about. Especially if it looks like, if it's a quote of a screenshot taken out of context, because there's a lot of those floating around right now, I research. And I remember watching video, multiple angles of that night, multiple angles. And based on what I saw, it was clearly self-defense with Kyle. Now, minor in possession, forget everything we know now. Going back then, minor in possession of an unlawful firearm. Yes. Should he have had that firearm? Yes. I'm talking about things that I agree with, the fact of questioning. Questioning, should he have had the gun? Questioning the type of gun he had. Questioning if he should have been there to begin with, because I know I wouldn't have been. Questioning, is he there looking for a fight? Because that's another angle of this. If you go looking for trouble, trouble finds you, then you can't, claim self-defense. Questioning his parents, their morals. They're going to buy him a gun. This is all stuff we thought we knew. And deliver him, drive him across the world, actually more like 20 minutes, his backyard essentially, because we've learned that one parent lives in Illinois, one parent lives, guess what, in Kenosha. All those things. But once I watch the video, I say, huh. All that other stuff is bullshit. He needs to be held accountable. Somebody needs to be held accountable for why he was there. 17 years old. Let me help you guys out with something. That is an accelerated college freshman or a high school senior. Man, those 17 to 23-year-olds sure think they're going to change the world. It's easy for adults to look back at that. It's easy for adults to look at that incident and say, God, what an idiot. Hello. I've been more than open when asked about my past, and I did some dumb shit. Nothing to hurt anybody. No, I never murdered anybody, never stabbed anybody. But I did a lot of dumb shit. I did some white collar crime. I did a lot of dumb shit. My mindset was, I'm invincible. I'm going to change the world. My son had this thing. He always had this interesting attitude growing up that the world revolved around him. And I know we're all going to laugh because, hey, don't all kids think that way? But literally the world revolved around him. And we would get into corporate America and he would get a job and like, well, this is unfair. I'm the best employee. And I go, well, you have to prove you're the best employee. You can't just expect them to think you're the best employee. And you think you're the best employee. That's just good. But you're not going to change the way the world works. But that's that mindset. I could totally see me. First off, I'm not into guns. I don't really like guns. I don't own a gun. But I think people have the right to carry guns. And again, I'm on record. Do I think you need an AR-15? I don't. I can't justify that. If you want a pistol to protect yourself, should you have right to get a pistol if you pass all the background checks? Yeah. Do you need 50 pistols? I don't think you do. So that's where I'm at with this. Do I think Kyle Rittenhouse needs to be walking around with an AR-15? No. Looking like he just fell out of Call of Duty, like everybody was doing around that time in every city where someone gets killed and everybody else wants to peacefully protest, and then other people take to the streets to protect said property, dressed like they're just got deployed, like they just came out of a Black Hawk. The diehard military people laugh at you guys. I have friends that they train every day for survival. One of my friends, Brian, who's been on here, Brian Sales, diehard gun owner, diehard rights, vests, survival. He laughs at those guys. He thinks it's ridiculous. And he's military. So I say all that to say that I don't have an agenda here, but I can look at this objectively. That night, the first guy who he killed, because, at the end of the day, he killed someone. He killed two people. The first guy attacked him and tried to take the gun away from him. Gun goes off. Sketchy. Yes. He's panicking, Kyle. He's like, oh shit, I just killed someone. And then people react, just like a movie. Hey, he's over here. Hey guys, he's over here. And then all of a sudden now he's getting chased. Now think about this. if you paid any attention to what was going on in the world and what was going on in Kenosha, the police were on the perimeter. Take a look at Portland. The police are on the perimeter. Take a look at Seattle. The police are on the perimeter. They're patrolling a little bit, but they're looking, and you can see there are 10, 15, 20 people walking around with guns. Why? Because they can. Now, should the police officers walk up and say, excuse me, identification, please. Show me that you have a right to carry this weapon. Okay, you don't? Okay, very good. Give me the weapon. You're coming with me. Hands off. Because had they done that, it's harassment because it's your constitutional right to walk around looking like you just fell out of Call of Duty or Battlefield. So then we've already had this case where you have the peaceful protesters, aka rioters and looters, who are burning businesses, burning small businesses. And the defense is, oh, well, you can rebuild. You know how many small businesses were destroyed who couldn't rebuild because they didn't have the proper insurance or whatever as a third generation family business? We're not talking Target, okay? We're not talking Walmart. We're talking Aunt Betty's bakeries and pies. We're talking random little things. Okay, so all that being said, you are in a situation. Okay, you put yourself in that situation, whether you were asked to be there to come and help because it's your backyard. I'm watching this stuff on the news and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to go down there. I'm not going to peacefully protest because I have friends here in Phoenix that peacefully protested and they're not the violent. They're not going to break windows and do stupid shit. And I feared for them getting arrested by the police. I didn't fear for them from the militia. I feared make sure they were safe. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with peacefully protesting. But the first guy who got killed was on camera. He was on video, egging people on with guns. I wish one of you guys would shoot me. Shoot me. Shoot me. What's up? All in their face. He was the agitator. So let's just kill this narrative that some people say, well, if you take a gun somewhere and you're threatening and you're waving it at people and threatening them, that wasn't Kyle. I don't know what videos you guys saw. That was not Kyle. He was walking around acting like he was an EMT, which he admitted in court he wasn't. He lied. He was in medical school. Not the same thing. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I have recently stayed at a Holiday Inn. Let that be a reference for those of you listening here in the United States. So he admitted to walking around and lying. But he was walking around on video. He did an interview. Why are you here? Well, I'm here to protect businesses and offer medical assistance to people who need it. What's your name? My name's Kyle. He wasn't there being like, I'm going to shoot anybody who gets anywhere near me. So the first guy attacks him. He shoots him. Everyone starts chasing Kyle. So the reason I said that is because you don't know who chasing you has a firearm, who has a knife, who has a brick. So he's scared. Put yourself in this position. Once you are fleeing, you are on the defense. The prosecution, the people out there, probably some of you would have you believe that he was walking down the street with his gun up, just randomly popping people like an active shooter. Active shooter is an important part of this story, important part of this case. Another guy runs up, who unfortunately died, uses his skateboard as a bat, smacks Kyle in the back of the neck as Kyle's on the ground. Goes to smack him again. Kyle turns around. The guy grabs the barrel. Kyle pulls the trigger. Correct me if I'm wrong. How many videos have we seen of people getting beat down during these riots? Not by the peaceful protesters, by the people hanging out with the peaceful protesters. Beat senseless for trying to defend their building. Think about the mass panic. I just shot someone. Sure, he could have just laid down on the ground, put his gun down, and put his hands in the air. No police were around at this point. You have no idea what's about to happen to you. You are scared. Someone just hit you over the back of the neck with a skateboard. They go to hit you again. Gun goes off, person dies. You swing around and another person is advancing at you. You see a gun in their hand. What are your thoughts? That's the guy who testified that he thought that Kyle was an active shooter, which is why he had his gun in his hand. Kyle saw the gun, shot that guy too. Hit him in the arm. The guy's an actual EMT. He was there all night providing medical to people who were shot by the police by rubber bullets. Total pandemonium. Once that happens, Kyle finds an officer, advances to the officer, hands in the air. Another part of this case is sketchy. The cop says he doesn't remember Kyle saying he shot someone. Kyle says, I told the cop I shot someone. You can see him on video walking toward the police officer car with his hands in the air. I got to go back and look at this, but I'm pretty sure the cop car slowed down and just kept driving. And Kyle was like, guys, I'm right here. But everything we know about this, what I just described to you, what you see on video, the burden of a case like this falls on the prosecution to say, did these people die out of intent? They have to prove that it wasn't self-defense. The video evidence plus the testimony of everyone involved was clear it was self-defense. Now, again, I'm shocked that he got off of everything. I thought maybe he would get a lighter sentence because people still died. He was still there with a dangerous weapon. And first off, why did the judge drop the charge of the minor in possession of like an assault rifle? Because the barrel length, it was long enough to not be considered a short barrel rifle. So it was, at worst, it would have been a Class A misdemeanor. It was thrown out because what we know, and yeah, don't believe everything you see on TV, right? What we know from every cop show, every movie with trials, is you always go after the most aggressive charge. In this case, it was murder. So that's what they were there to prove. And the prosecution lost. Wisconsin state law is sketchy, which is another reason why the judge threw those charges out, the lesser charges. It says a minor can't have a gun unless this, or this, or that, only under the condition of this. So if anything, Wisconsin's going to be rewriting or amending some of their gun laws. But this whole narrative that mommy picked him up and took him hours to the scene and dropped him off right in the middle of a hot zone, it's all false. He was already there, staying with a friend, the same guy who bought him the gun, who admitted to buying him the gun illegally. No, he bought the gun legally, but he gave it to a minor because a minor wasn't legally able to buy that gun. And that guy's going to do some time. He pled guilty with hopes of a lesser charge for cooperating. And so by the letter of the law, Kyle Rittenhouse was defending himself. One of the examples that people have thrown up is the girl who's in jail for killing her sex abuser, sex trafficker. And my wife brought that up. And she goes, well, I heard an attorney talk about the Kyle Rittenhouse thing, and he brought up a couple good points. And I'm not sure now. I go, well, what do you mean? Well, he said, one of the things that this is just like, is as if you go to a neighborhood and you have a gun and you see some kids, painting graffiti on some random fence that doesn't belong to you, and you walk up to the kids and you start threatening them with your gun and yelling and screaming at them, showing aggression towards them. If they attack you, it's no longer self-defense because you were the agitator. I go, oh, that's interesting. That's interesting because that's not this at all. Kyle wasn't walking around showing his gun and threatening people. Sure, he was carrying his gun like all the other little Call of Duty wannabes. But we have video proof that he wasn't that guy. We have video proof that the first guy that got shot was that guy. Another thing is, my wife and I talked about it because she goes, well, I don't think it's fair. I said, yeah, the judicial system is not fair at all. But in this case, it worked. She goes, well, I don't think it's fair that a girl who has no way out murders her sex trafficker who prevents her from leaving all the time, held her captive. I said, well, that's a crime of passion. I said, that's not self-defense. And the argument was, well, how is that not self-defense? She has nowhere to go. I go, unless he's attacking her and then she kills him, then it's not self-defense. That's by definition what self-defense is. I said, look it up and I said, do you have the full details? Or are you just listening to what this guy, this attorney who clearly has no idea what happened in the Kyle Rittenhouse case, what he said? She goes, well, that's just what he said. I go, well, look it up. So she looked it up and guess what? This poor girl, because that's a shitty situation. And hundreds of thousands of people are doing that, are faced with that sex trafficking. Shitty situation. She killed her captive. She killed the sex trafficker guy in his sleep. I said, well, that's open and shut case. That's premeditated murder. And my wife's like, yeah, you're right. I said, right. Shitty situation. Sucks she's in jail. But that is vigilantism. Kyle Rittenhouse is not vigilante justice. He's not walking around popping people like Walking Dead, like walkers. He put himself in a shit situation and it went south. I'm surprised he walked with everything, but I'm not surprised they got off on the murder charges. Coming up, my thoughts on the Acura Integra. Are you tired of blowing out your back at the bathtub while washing your dog or subjecting your canine to a water torture bath while leashed up to a post outside? Now there's a far more effective way to wash your pet while saving your back and keeping your dog happy. It's called Booster Bath, a portable bathtub on legs. Head over to boosterbath.com, one word, and pick one up. Available in 3 sizes, this tub system features a drain, a soap cubby, and water-controlling wand. This tub conveniently breaks down to be stored when not in use. Want to save 10% on your first-time purchase? Head over and sign up today to make that happen. Boosterbath.com. So the new Acura Integra was released, and people lost their minds. And the yellow Integra came out, and my first thought was, not a world beater. Don't hate it, don't love it. But here's the thing. I never considered buying it to begin with. It was never a thought of mine. So I didn't really have an agenda on the matter. I've said this before. People love to complain about stuff they never intended to buy to begin with. Now, I know there are some people who couldn't wait, who are devoted Honda Acura people who just couldn't wait for it to be unveiled, and they had plans to buy one. They might still have plans to buy one. But the initial reaction that people were giving to this Integra, we always romanticize over the past. The 4-door Integra, in my opinion, has never really looked that good. Sure, you get a 4-door Integra Type R, it looks cool because of what it is, what it represents, not because of what it really is. It never really looked that good. First generation, second generation, and of course the DC2 Integra Type R. Everyone loves the coupes. And so people say, well, why not have a coupe? Well, coupe sales have wet the bed those last 10 years. It's sedans and crossover SUVs and trucks and full-size SUVs. That's where the market is at. It's the same people who complain because you can't get a manual transmission in most cars. People who buy manual transmissions represent less than 1% of car sales across the board. Period, point blank. So they're appeasing to the 1%ers, and in the real world, the 1%ers have all the money. In the material world, the 1%ers, we don't matter. So if we want a manual transmission, no one gives a shit. They're going to do what the market, what the sales say. So this Integra has a manual transmission. They teased it. They teased the hell out of it. And everyone was so excited until you find out it's a 1.5 liter turbo. Boos across the board. Now, I don't think Acura did themselves any favors by unveiling this in yellow. Yellow doesn't really show the curves of the car very well. I think it's the same mistake that Nissan made when they unveiled the 400. The successor to the 370Z, but you start seeing it in different colors, and man, it looks great. I think that the Integra is going to be fine. I think Acura is going to be fine. I never planned on buying one to begin with, but like anything else, the C8 came out, people lost their minds on both sides of the equation. I'm not saying people lost their minds over this. People hated it, the Integra. The Supra came out. Most people hated it. Some people still do, but it's out. I know a lot of people who own them, so it can't be that bad. All the big names in the import scene have one. They're all fixed up, and now people forgot that they hated them so much. Yeah, it's just the same thing as a Z4, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Did you cancel your deposit or no? Oh, I never had a deposit. Oh, okay. How many of you canceled your deposit on the Integra? Well, we'll put it this way. It's a prototype, so there probably are no deposits, but how many of you would have canceled your deposit? I think Acura would be fine. I think it'll be fine. Fun little car. I can't wait to see them on the road. Modified. Sure, it's a rebadged ILX. Sort of, kind of, but not really. You have to kind of understand where Acura came from because you had first gen, second gen, third gen Integra. You have the RSX. They dropped the word Integra. Acura went to just letters for the longest, right? I think there's still a letter. I mean, this Integra, is this the first Acura that's come out that hasn't been just letters. You have RSX, TSX, RDX, MDX, NSX, TL Type S back then, now TLX Type S now. I think this is the first fully named Acura model, well, since the DC2 Integra and the Legend, back when they just named things. Huh. Who'd have thought? Anyway, if they come out with a coupe, it'll be cool. Hell yeah. I don't plan on buying one. I've outgrown the little sporty starter car because that's what the Integra is. It's a starter car. It's the entry level Acura. You guys know what that means, right? It means your first car, or it might be your first fun car that's not the used car that was your first car that you learned to drive in. My first new car was an Acura Integra. 98, totaled it. Got a 99, turboed it, blew the motor. Loved it. But we romanticize over the old cars. What we do is we look at the cars with the wheels, with the suspension, with the aero, slight aero, and that's what we love. No one's rolling around in a bone stock Integra GSR. Well, my friend Mike is, but most people aren't. It's the same thing when the new NSX came out. Saw all this stuff. What do you like, original NSX or new NSX? But every picture of the original NSX was one that looked like mine. Lowered, wheels, aero, turboed, wrapped. You didn't see a 92 NSX sitting on the homey chromies, ugliest wheels in the world, stock height, ugly exhaust pipe. No, you saw a nice one. So let's give the new cars a chance. If you don't like them from the factory, guess what? You can make them look however you want. Acura's going to be fine. Integra's going to do fine. Coming up, Wayne Raqueno. It's time for the social media highlight of the week, brought to you by The Cell Shop, an Arizona-based retailer that strives to be your destination of choice for wireless services. Visit them at cellshop.us. That's CELSHOP.us. Today's special guest, all the way from the great state of Texas. No, he's not in studio, but maybe one day we'll make that happen. Wayne Raqueno. Wayne Raqueno.
Yep.
Raqueno. I just know you as Wayne side.
There you go.
You know, we had an opportunity to, like, we had communicated, then we got an opportunity to actually meet in person at your Tuned Original show. I want to say that was back in 2019. Yep. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your history, because I know when you and I talked last in person, we had talked about your Tuned Original show. We even talked a little bit about Hot Import Nights, which we just had one here and I didn't go. I almost never go, but I think you had some doings with that early on. And tell us a little bit about who Wayne is and why everybody who knows Wayne really likes Wayne, if not loves Wayne.
Well, I've been doing since the late 90s. I used to throw the Hot Import Nights car events. And then, I walked away from that around 2015. And I kind of thought I was out of the car scene. But one of the venues that we would do events at, they wanted me to come back. And I was like, well, I don't do car shows anymore. And they go, well, we really want you to come back and you can start up a brand new event. It doesn't matter, but we want you to come back. So it was kind of weird because we ended up starting Tuned Originals in the Seattle area because of that. And so it was kind of wild. I didn't expect to jump back into the car events, but here I am jumping in, doing it, and still loving it. I guess if you're a real car person, you just can't ever really walk away. No matter what, it brings you right back to it.
So, I mean, late 90s into 2015-ish, I mean, that's a long time. What kind of changes have you seen throughout the import community and with HIN Hot Import Nights? And then why did you walk away?
Well, just a lot of the changes, I guess it was more of just what people do to their cars. And it's interesting because even like from area to area, you can see like differences of what people do to their cars. And
like Midwest versus,
like Midwest,
SoCal.
Like East Coast versus, SoCal, even to like Texas, just the styling of cars. Some places like to do all kinds of weird graphics, or they'll do like the body conversions to vehicles. And it was just always, I don't know, it's just always a fun time, but it was just always evolving, and everybody wanted to just kind of like beat this guy or beat that guy. But then I guess when social media started coming around, it was more of, I got to get the most likes and I've got to do whatever it takes to be the most popular person. And that really changed a lot of things. And I guess when I left the previous company, I wasn't really satisfied with how things were going, and it was just time for me to walk away. And yeah.
What was that event, for example, because I think one of the first car shows that's the thing also, right? A car show, right? So when I was growing up, a car show to me was going to the North Dallas Auto Show, where the manufacturers completely different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Completely different to like a hot import nights type of deal, which I think was it AutoCon? There's also Autorama, Import Autorama. That was a thing, right? In Houston.
Oh yeah, Import Autorama.
So the Import Autorama, like those type of things, because I didn't get my car until the very, very late 90s. I got one in 98 and then in 99. I don't remember how different those shows were to, like, we have Import Face Off now, right? And Import Face Off, they travel around and they have the drag racing, they have the music, they have this, they have that. You know, what is it about that change that just, what direction did you see it going where you're like, you know, I think I'm kind of done with this?
Like, one of the bad parts is if you have a car event and you don't necessarily have the judges that really know what they're doing, or you have judging that's pretty faulty, where you have, what do you call it, like phone in judging, or judging by popularity.
Right.
Well,
yep.
You don't really get the people that should be winning those events. So that gives like distaste to those guys that should, you know, like a lot of these guys put so much effort in their vehicles, but they're not the super popular kids. So at the end of the day, they're not going to win those popularity contests. And because of that, you know, you put a sour taste in those people's mouths, and then what do they end up doing? They walk away from the car scene. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I see, because a lot of car show, like a lot of guys, I think they'll ask me questions about how to do car events or how do I throw car shows, but I can't really tell people, well, this is exactly how you do it, because, you know, then, you know, like that, I lose my value of, you know, knowing what I need to do to make sure that I have a good event. And it sucks because everyone thinks, oh, I can just throw a car show, but then they throw a mediocre to lackluster car show, and guess what? You just killed 50 people who didn't want, you know, like they don't want to continue in the car scene because they didn't win because you chose your friends to win.
You think it's rigged, right?
Understand what I'm saying,
I do, 100%. Yeah, absolutely.
And I had to walk away from, you know, like that previous event because, you know, some of that kind of stuff was going on, and just, you know, like I had some just odd situations happen with that. And I want to be a part of something that I can believe in and just know that everything is going to the best of, you know, like our ability. If it's not there, then really I can't be there. So rather than trying to save a sinking ship, you know, it's just easier for me to not be a part of it.
That's a good point. It feels, I guess there's nothing worse than running a car event and then having people think that it was overly political to where these people won because they were incentivized to show their cars to win. That's a big thing. And I know that in California, and I'll just say it, like, I refuse to do a show in California because I feel like no matter what, when my car was on its game, I had no shot, because I felt that Best Acura they already knew what that was going into the show.
Oh, yeah.
They already knew what the second one was going into the show. So I was fighting for third at best. And to be honest, I mean, I'm honest enough of a car person to know, and even at your show, to look around and, man, some of these people, man, that is their heart, there's their soul. You know, you could take in RSX a lower introduction cost, and you can modify and do all this stuff to it because some of the parts aren't as much, and that is just like, I don't mind losing to a vehicle that is just done right, you know.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I mean, and then going back to what you're saying about judges, I mean, it's hard to find people who are objective enough to where, you know, there is no bias to where it's like, okay, well, I think this car has better wheels because I recognize this brand. I don't recognize this brand, so now you get a 2 out of a 10. You know, the whole scoring system, like, there's no perfect way to do it. I mean, we know at your show, I mean, we know I really got best Acura, even though I got second place. You know, we know the wide body one. You know, we know it had some loose panels and all that kind of shit, but it's people have to enjoy the experience. And you're right. If they don't enjoy the experience, if they think it's rigged, you know, then they're not going to want to be part of it.
Exactly. A lot of the companies that used to come out, they don't want to come out anymore because it's just, you know, like if the car competitors aren't going to support the events, why would the companies come out and support the event? So when these events do, you know, like, I don't want to say necessarily shady things, but when they're not doing the right thing, you know, it's just kind of kills the overall car scene. So it's yeah.
I understand. It's like you would rather not be associated with something like that, right? Because and then going back to the popularity contest, I agree. Because, you know, on Instagram, we have all these, you know, which car is better, top or bottom.
Yeah.
And, you know, I have friends that are like, hey, you know, go vote for my car. And I'm like, I will, but it doesn't matter because it's a popularity contest. Because the other person, if they have 50,000 followers and they tell all their followers to vote for their car, they don't matter what your car looks like.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It doesn't matter. Like, none of this matters to you. And they're like, yeah, no, I just want to win. I go, okay, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Like, I know what you're saying about some of these shows are like, hey, text this or go on the People's Choice, right?
Right.
Those are always the tough ones. So being burned out and not really liking what's kind of going on, but you still came back. Why?
You know, a lot of these guys, like even myself, the way I see it is, how can you throw a car event if you're not even in the car scene? And, you know, like, I've been doing cars for a long time, and I enjoy entering my vehicles into car shows. And so it boggles my mind when some of these guys that don't even know anything to do, you know, like, do the cars, what are they doing throwing car shows? Like, would you want someone that doesn't know how to bake? Would you want them to be making a cake for you and your family?
Nope.
No. So I don't understand, like, how these guys do it. So I went back and I did that one event in Seattle, and I said, man, I had so much fun, and I'm probably one of the few event promoters that'll go out, say hello to everyone that's out there. Like, all the guys that enter the car event, I always go out, I say hello, and I'll check out everyone's car, even though, like, I have nothing to do with the judging. I'll still go out there. I want to see what everyone's doing to their vehicles, and I catch up with people, and it was just, like, so much fun. And I said, you know what, we're going to do another one in Texas, and then we're going to do another one here in Seattle again next year. And so, you know, it was just weird how it started. And, you know, I love the car community so much, and just being a part of it, going out, seeing everyone, and then spending time with everyone is, you know, it's just, it's hard to explain. It's just something that when you're doing it, you love it, like, you enjoy it. And it was just something that I just had to go back out and do. And just seeing everyone out there wearing, like, Tuned Original shirts, or, like, proudly showing their awards, and it was, you know, it's just, like, something just amazing to me. So that's why I continue doing it. And we just came off of one September 11th out here in the DFW area, and, you know, we filled the place up. And there was another event that was going on in Houston that same day, and it was kind of interesting because they had told me that, like, they suggested that we change our date because they were doing an event that same day. And I was like, that's so interesting that you would tell me that. But, I'm not going to do that. And later that day, I was told that that event didn't do that well and we had sold out. So, it's just, I don't know. That's another thing, I guess. Some of these car guys that come in from out of state and then they think that they've got a name somewhere, but then they want to come in and do something here, but they have no clue like who they're going against. So
that's right. That's your territory.
yeah, it was just kind of interesting to me. And like they had told me that they were doing X amount of events all around the country and then outside of the country. And I was like, wow, okay, cool. And, like little did they know this was like my almost 700th event that I've done worldwide.
Sure.
And, and so it's like, okay, well, all right, cool, man.
I mean, honestly,
Thanks.
that's enough to cause burnout too. Not just the changing of the scene, and the way these shows are going. But man, are you at freedom to disclose the name of that other event, or you don't want to throw it out there? Because I know that when I showed my car, I fucking drove my car from Arizona over there for your event, and also to show people where I grew up and to see my car. But I could pick between a couple events. Obviously I picked yours.
Same day as the one that you came to.
Yeah.
And I want to say that someone told me that there had maybe 50 cars or something that day.
It's not a lot.
When we were filled. And then this year, it was an event called Clean Culture. And
I know that event.
Yeah, I'm sure they've done successful events all around the country, but it was weird because they had a date and it was odd because I had even shared that they had their event and it was like July 24th, I believe, or June 24th. And then they changed it to the September 11th that we were doing. And then they contacted me to say that they suggest that we change our date. And I was like, well, why would I change my date? Like I had this date for, a good amount of time. And I was just like, nah, I'll keep it. And they said, all right, we're trying to advise you to change your date.
It's interesting how that happens.
Yeah, it's weird. And I think they didn't know that, like I've had a history of doing events since the 90s and that's, like, why would you even tell someone that you suggest that they do a different date?
That happens. I've heard of that down here. We have a lot of people who come through and they plan on the same date and they're like, oh, well, damn it, so-and-so is doing theirs that date. And like, why would they do that? And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of cars to go around and people are going to pick and they usually pick, whatever's going to either A, they think they're going to win or B, that's where everyone else is going. And you want to kind of hang out with your friends and showcase.
Yeah.
How difficult is it when people come from out of town with their vehicle on a trailer and they've stacked up a bunch of awards and they expect to win and they don't? Like how often I would imagine it happens a lot where you get confronted or the judges get confronted. And maybe that's part of the reason why you're like, screw this. I don't need this anymore for a while.
No, that actually, that's over the years, that's happened quite a bit. And a lot of these guys, like they put endless amounts of time and money into their cars. And of course, when they go somewhere, they want to go up against, the best and they want to see how they stack. And not all the time are they going to come out, with the results that they're hoping for. And unfortunately, a lot of those times I'm the one that has to talk to them or whoever we have as our head judge will have to talk to them. And that's one of the things that I let our judges know before the event even starts is I let them know, hey, look, whatever the choices are on the winnings, you got to know that if there's a question about this or that, you guys are going to have to answer it because I have no clue because,
right.
I don't go around and do any of the judging. But if there's multiple cars up for awards, well, what made this car beat this car? And when the awards are getting ready to be announced, I'll go into the back when they're having a judges meeting and I'll talk and I'll sit with them and That's one of the things I think the judges don't like is I'll just randomly choose like categories and I'll say, well, how come this car beat this car? Or what happened to this car? Or I'll just ask about random cars. And I just want to know that
It's
the
kind of funny.
judges know, like, I just want to know that they know what's going on with different cars that are in the event. Because if I can't feel satisfied with their answers, then how can I let, like all the competitors feel satisfied about it? And so, yeah, I'll absolutely ask them, well, what about this one? What about that one? And it boggles my mind because like the head judge will tell me, well, this guy had, this paint, he had this, there was a mark on this, there was dirt under the fender here, there was dirt under behind the wheel, there was, and I'm just like, okay, cool. And that's the stuff that I have to know, because you got to make sure that if you're doing these events, that you actually know what's going on. And, like I'm walking around trying to make sure that people are happy, people are safe, people are having a great time. And then at the same time, I'm trying to make sure that the judges are doing the right thing. It's a lot of work, but it's like so rewarding just going around, seeing the smiling faces, having people tell me, dude, Wayne, this was amazing, or Wayne, thank you so much. And,
right.
It's just super rewarding. And it's kind of cool because one of the things that I like to do is I'll stop a couple of people in the crowd and I'll ask people, hey, what do you think of the show? And I make sure it's people that I have no clue who they are. And if they take the time to answer my questions, I'll give them a shirt or I'll give them like a Tuned Originals keychain or just like merchandise that we have. And I'll tell them, hey, here's a gift. Thanks for answering my questions. And sometimes they'll tell me, oh, are you with this event? And I'm like, oh yeah, this is my event.
Right.
They're like, holy shit, are you serious? And I'm like, yeah, this is my show. And I just wanted to get some feedback. And I guess you can call it like quality control, but it's something that I feel like everyone should do just to make sure that people are satisfied with the show. And whether it's good or bad, I'll still give them some kind of merch and tell them, hey, thanks for coming out for the show. And sometimes I'll even tell them, hey, can I get y'all dinner or, just whatever, just because I'm grateful that they gave me their feedback. So, yeah, it's
that speaks volume to the type of person that you are. And then going back to the very opening of this, that's why people enjoy being around you so much. So that is Tuned Originals. I mean, here we are. Do you have any more shows actually planned for 22?
Next year we'll do a couple. It all just depends. Like this whole pandemic thing is kind of put a damper on everything, especially last year and kind of all the beginning of this year. I didn't want to be the event where people are like, oh my God, I got sick and I was over at Tuned Originals. That's like not a headline that I'd like to see. So kind of waited till I felt like we were in a safer, I guess, time frame. And that's why we pushed it to September. And like this past event, I don't know if I told you that instead of charging spectator admission, what we did was we asked for care package items for troops overseas, and we collected enough items to make about 600 care packages, and and those are going to be sent to troops overseas. So that's something that I really, really wanted to do for the past probably year and a half, and we were finally able to do it. And I think going forward, I'm going to try to do some type of charity event or donation-based event versus taking spectator admission. So, these troops overseas are out there protecting our interests, and like they're going through this pandemic and they're like in worse situations because then they're on lockdown. Some of them can't even go to a store or anything to go get, like the basic supplies they need. So us collecting it, sending it there, and then they can get it, and I think it's just super rewarding to know that we're going to put a smile on, like these guys' faces overseas. That was the goal. And, we made it happen. I was hoping that we were going to collect enough to do about 1,000 care packages, but you know what? I'm satisfied with about 600. So.
No, that's an awesome thing to do.
Yeah.
How's your health? As I've known you, you've had issue after issue after issue, and I do stay a little concerned. How's your health, man? Tell us what all you've been having to go through the last couple of years, because it sounds terrible.
Yeah, the last few years I've had ailing kidneys. I totally lost eyesight in my right eye, and I was totally blind for like 3 months. And luckily, my retinal surgeon was able to save the eyesight on my left eye, and just all that. And then,
well, you said you were told you couldn't see shit for 3 months.
I couldn't see anything for 3 months.
What was that like? I mean, during that time, were you kind of like, this is just how it's going to be, or I believe that this is going to go, this is going to get
every day I'll be honest with you, I cried every day because I couldn't believe that it happened. And I just believed every day, I'm going to get my eyesight back. And I thought that I would be able to get it back on both eyes. But, I guess you don't realize how lucky you are just to have one eye working until you lose both eyes. Then you're like, okay, I'm satisfied with just that one eye. And luckily the retinal surgeon was able to fix me up and get the vision back in that one eye. And I tell you what, man, I cried every day, every single day that I couldn't see, I cried. And the day I was out of surgery, the retinal surgeon said, I'd really like you to wait till Tuesday to take the patch off of your left eye. But if you feel up to it, take the patch off tomorrow. Let us know if you can see or not. And I took the patch off the next day, and sure enough, I was able to see. And I cried again that day.
Right. Of course.
I was just like so happy. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, man, I tell you what, that was extremely hard times, but I was able to learn how to walk around with just touching everything and feeling my way through. And I probably fell who knows how many times, and so I learned how to walk short steps just to figure out if I was going to hit anything or stumble on anything, which was just kind of crazy. Like probably one of the greatest things during that was just getting all the messages read to me online from all the car people who know me and friends and family, just, like offering their support. And that's probably what helped me, like along the way. So I'm extremely grateful for all that.
I got to be honest. There's a few times where I've actually sent stuff, and I sat there and I thought about it, and I go, is Wayne even reading this? Someone must be reading this for him, especially the ones that got a response like immediately. I'm like, that was too fast.
Yeah. I would have friends and family reading messages to me or messages online. I was like, man, this is wild. This is pretty awesome. And there was a lot of voicemails and text on my phone that I didn't even know that I had for, I don't even know how long they were there. And then whenever I was able to see again, I was replying to some of them, and people are like, what are you talking about? I'm like, oh, you sent me a message, like 3 months ago, and I just got my vision back. And they're like, oh my God.
Yeah,
you're just able to see now. And I'm like, yeah.
How did that time shape I would imagine you had a lot of time to kind of think about stuff. Like your perspective of life had to have changed a little bit. I mean, you said, for people who can just see out of one, it's just, I can't imagine not being able to see. Oh
man. I tell you what, I guess I'm just more like, I just respect, the people that have disabilities now way more, realizing, like, oh, wow, this is like the stuff they have to go through, not being able to see or, what have you, or, yeah, it's just, man, pretty wild to actually have to go through it. But, like, no matter what, I knew every day I'm going to have to adapt to it and figure it out. And I got to tell you one story, though, when I was totally blind. So if a buddy of mine, he had to watch me because, like, someone had to be with me at all times. He was like, yeah, I'll spend time with Wayne. And so he was like, I'm going to bring you some food. I was like, all right. So he brought food, and then so I was eating, and then I go, man, I'm going to have to poop. And he goes, oh, Lord Jesus, help me now. And I go, what?
This is part of the deal, homie.
He goes, let me get a smoke before we do this. I go, no, just take me to the restroom and I can take it from there. He goes, oh God, you can wipe yourself? I go, yeah, I can wipe myself. And he thought that he was going to have to wipe me, all that. And I was like, no, I can get that part. And he was like, oh, thank God.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was, I don't think I'll ever forget that. That was a good one.
What was your most frustrating eating experience without being able to see?
My most frustrating eating experience was probably dropping just food on myself, or at first, I guess it was just like I had no clue where the food was at. And I guess just as people assumed that I would be able to get the food still. And I'm like,
sure.
Okay, well, I guess they don't realize that I'm totally blind. So I'm like trying to scoop food up, and then food is like falling all over the place. And then I'm getting yelled at because I drop food everywhere. And I'm like, well, you do realize I can't see anything. And then they're like, oh my God, we'll feed you. I'm like, okay. That was probably the most frustrating part about the entire thing. But I guess in a way, I'm kind of glad I went through it just so that I would know that, there's always a worse situation. Like right now, I only have vision in one eye, but I know there's a worse situation, which is I could have vision in no eyes.
Sure.
But, I'm, absolutely grateful that I have the vision that I have now.
What do you think is worse? Having eyesight and then not having eyesight, or never having eyesight?
I would definitely think having it and then not having it.
Because Because
yeah, exactly. You already know what the ability is. And then if it's taken away from you, it's like, oh crap, well, it's gone now. What am I supposed to do? And with me, I had to try and figure it out and adapt to it. And, that's how, like, walking those little steps instead of walking the original type of steps that I was able to walk, having to feel around for places so that I didn't keep hitting stuff on my thighs and my legs or running into things. And that was difficult. That was difficult as well. Like my most recent situation was the day after the Tuned Originals event. We ate at a sushi restaurant, and I ended up getting food poisoning. And the food poisoning caused extreme dehydration because I was having massive diarrhea, having extreme vomiting. And after 2 days, I ended up having to go to the ER. They said my kidneys had completely failed. And so they had to get me situated to start doing dialysis, like right then and there.
Off of food poisoning, man.
Yeah. And I had never done dialysis. So I didn't know that I was going to have to sit there for 5 hours and have like a machine pumping the blood through me and filtering it out. And that was just like super difficult. And then the doctor told me, well, we have no clue if this is gonna even get your kidneys going again, but we're hoping that this is going to jumpstart your kidney function because you're at stage 5 chronic kidney disease now. I'm like, well, how many stages are there? And they're like, there's
like 3.
5 stages. Yeah. There's 5 stages and you're at the max. And they said that we're hoping that this is going to jumpstart your kidney function. And so I was in the hospital for 5-6 days, and luckily I was able to get out, and I'm still dealing with that now. Like, I wasn't able to eat certain foods like potatoes, avocados, tomatoes, certain things that somehow
everything that ends in O.
They kind of prevent your kidneys from working to full capacity.
That's interesting.
And they said you can't eat any of those foods for a while. We'll let you know when. And so yeah, man, it's just kind of a super bad situation. But that was my most recent adventures in hospitals.
So a couple questions for you. Number one,
okay,
just going off of that, okay, because I'm not going to forget the other question is, so kidney disease, that's something you've had for a while then? Is that from all the surgeries and everything? Or just like, that didn't come from just the food poisoning, right? That just kind of made it 10 times worse.
Right. It made it way worse. So the kidneys, I was at a stage 3 chronic kidney disease, and that's around 50 to 60% is what my kidneys are filtering.
Mm-hmm.
And with the extreme dehydration, it really slows your kidneys down and damages your kidneys. And so that's what brought me to the stage 5. And so those 2 days of like all my fluids just like coming out of my mouth and coming out of my poop with my poop, just kind of just drained me. And yeah, I just did extreme damage to me. So
then you've had kidney disease. Like where does that come from?
That's from diabetes.
Okay.
I'm diabetic. Yeah, I had just had it for a while, and it got really bad in 2019, and then I was all good to go, and then this happened, and then it shot it right back down again.
Wow. And then, another question on kind of the lighter side of things. Any of your close buddies play any like shitty tricks on you when you couldn't see for their 3 months?
Oh no, no one really played any tricks on me because they know they would end up getting it worse.
Because you're a jokester, you're a prankster. I mean, all your Facebook posts, and I've caught on too. I'm like, let me just skip to the end of this post.
Yeah, and I tell you what, one thing that I know is in life you got to just have a good time with everything and everyone, and I just feel like laughter is just something that you got to have. If you can't enjoy life, then what's the point of it? So, like on social media, I like to joke around a lot and have a good time, especially with friends. And without having laughter, I mean, you just have a dismal life, and it's not something that you'll enjoy.
Sure. You want to tell us about your hamster and your squirrel fetish? So for the listeners, we were talking beforehand a little bit, and Wayne has kind of a fun, heartwarming, cute story to share.
Well, we just recently got a squirrel baby, and he was extremely sick. Well, not necessarily sick, but he was alone. And when I contacted a squirrel rehabber, I was trying to figure out why the squirrel was just like laying there and not wanting to go anywhere or run away. And it's because the squirrel was abandoned by its mother, and they'll just wait there for their mom to come back and get them. And so eventually we just got the baby, and we figured we need to get him liquids, food, like whatever they eat. And we got puppy milk. And as soon as we put the puppy milk in a syringe, Like he was just going to town on it, and he would just lay there, and that was it. He would drink the milk. He would lay there and go to sleep. After 2 or 3 days, oh yeah, he just started walking. He's jumping around, and he's just all over the place. And the rehabber told us that, well, because it's already coming up on winter, like you can't let him loose because he's not going to have food stored away. He's not going to have the ability to survive. And so, yeah, we're going to have to keep him through the winter, and then we'll let him loose, and he'll be good to go starting the spring. So yeah, now I'm the squirrel whisperer. Yeah, before that, like I have a bunch of hamsters, and I just always have loved hamsters, and I think a lot of just knowing what to do with the squirrel was the fact that like I had been raising hamsters for such a long time. So it feels good knowing that we saved this little guy.
He's going to be dead as soon as you release him to the wild. You know that, right?
Oh, man, I hope not.
Next door's Calico Cat's going to tear Joey up.
Yeah, they're saying that I guess their mothers, like the biggest thing that happens to them is they get run over by cars, or they'll be taken by predators like bobcats or dogs, or like stray cats and whatnot. But I don't know what happened to his mom, but he'll be good for a while. He's just super energetic now, and he's just a little rocket everywhere.
That's awesome. You should have named him Rocket. After Rocket Raccoon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, we named him Joey because like we didn't know if he was going to be energetic, but man, had I known, yeah, I definitely would have done that. He was just kind of like there, and his name Joey was because I was thinking, well, I got to carry this little guy with me all over the place in a little towel.
Kangaroo.
So so like a kangaroo just carries the little baby around. So I was like, well, come on, little baby, I'm gonna have to carry you around in this towel with me. And so he got that name, Joey.
That's awesome. Yeah. So Wayne, how can people keep up with you?
You can catch me on Instagram. I think it's Wayneside is my name on Instagram, and I'm definitely on Facebook, Wayne Raqueno.
That's Mr. Wayneside, all squished together, and then it'll be in the signature.
Mr. Wayneside.
It's kind of like that thing where you're like, you don't know your phone numbers? Like, I don't ever call myself.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, you can also follow Tuned Originals.
Thanks, Wayne. It's been a long time coming, and that's my fault. But I think it was so you were able to share all these awesome, amazing, and somewhat some scary stories, too, over the past couple of years.
Oh, yeah. Oh, thanks for having me, for sure.
I want to thank Wayne Raqueno for spending an hour or so talking to us about, his journey and some of the ailments. I mean, that's scary. I mentioned him in a few episodes ago, people I wanted to connect with that I've been kind of putting off unintentionally. Like, what an incredible person. And having met him once, my God, is he genuine. Bad things happen to good people. Going back to my opening with Kyle Rittenhouse, I just wanted to add something. Because I know how divisive it can be. I know how polarizing the topic is. I'm not saying that I celebrate Kyle. I'm not saying that I was rooting for him. I'm not saying that I believe in his right to be where he was. I don't think he should have been anywhere around there. I think the person who bought him the gun needs to be punished by the fullest extent of the law. I think Kyle's going to spend the rest of his life reflecting on the Kenosha incident, knowing that two families were completely torn apart because of this. His family can never be the same because of this. I've already seen people on social media throwing up photos of him and his mother. This is a very vicious society. I don't agree with the fact that he had that gun. Shouldn't have any gun. But for what he was on trial for, murder, as if it was cold-blooded murder, it was obvious to me, based on everything I saw, that it was self-defense. Should he have been there? Hell no. But by the letter of the law, it was self-defense. And I think it's dangerous playing the race card on this one because you can't make him an example because that's not going to change. If you say black people have lived in inequality in the justice system, I'm with you. But just because that wrong has happened an ungodly amount of times doesn't mean that in the court of law, what's obvious to me as self-defense should have been a different verdict based on stuff that had nothing to do with him, nothing to do with anyone in the courtroom, to right some other wrong, because it wouldn't have. People have been found convicted of things that they obviously, by everybody else, were innocent of. And ask anybody who sat on a jury for any extended amount of time, it's not what you know. It's what can be proved. All it is a glorified debate class with livelihoods at stake. That's all the courtroom is. If I tell you an apple is red and you're saying it's not red, you're saying it's maroon, and I'm saying maroon is red, it's my burden to prove to you that maroon and red are the same. If I can't prove to you that maroon and red are the same, never mind they're next to each other on the color wheel. If I can't prove in the courtroom that maroon and red are the same, I'm going to lose that. Everybody in the world knows maroon and red are the same. They know maroon is a shade of red, like cardinal red, like crimson red, like barn door red, apple red, starburst red, Twizzlers red, different than red vines. So it's all about the prosecution and defense. And whether it's right or wrong, it is just that simple. If you like what you heard today, please subscribe to this podcast and go tell a friend about it and come back next week. Each show I'll try to give you something different. I want to thank Right Honda out of Scottsdale, Arizona, higher quality detail at Tempe, Arizona, boosterbath.com, forwellonline.com, tonguetrees.com, and Cellshot Wireless Services. Can't forget The Credit Mids and Patreon business supporter Kuya Automotive out of Winter Garden, Florida. If you're in a position to help the podcast upgrade, join the Patreon for as little as $3 a month and get access to bonus audio as well as show swag. That's Hard Parking Podcast. That's patreon.com/HardParkingPodcast. I want to thank Mark Stolman, Catherine Cox, Eddie Ramos, Richard Graves, Byron Jones, and Bo Jung for being supporters of this show. Also, on a final note, just got done with the Elite Tuner this past weekend. A lot of fun. We sold the Hard Parking shirts, $20. 100% of that goes to Reach Out Worldwide Foundation. If you guys are in the Phoenix area and you're going to Fuel Fest, I will see you December 4th. That is coming up in a few weeks. On the next episode, we talk to Randall of Fuel Fest. He's going to tell you why Fuel Fest exists and what to expect and how to get involved with Reach Out Worldwide. You can follow me on Instagram at jfenning, that's JHAEPFENNING, or JTravels, that's JHAE_travels. Follow the Hard Parking Violations Facebook group. Like the page at facebook.com/HardParkingMedia. Follow us on YouTube, youtube.com, HardParkingPodcast. Might be Hard Parking Media, I can't remember. But one thing to remember is I can't grow like telling the world how great the show is, so let's do this. Let's grow this thing together. We'll talk to y'all next week.
Shut up!
Hey, this is Levi Epps, hashtag Mr. Financial Freedom of The Credit Mix, here with a special offer for Hard Parking Podcast fans. If you've been living with less than perfect credit for having evictions, late payments, bankruptcies, doesn't matter what it is. If it's something that negatively impacts your credit score and you're not able to get approvals for certain things, or maybe you got to pay large deposits and high interest rates, we don't want that to be you anymore. We have a program that will legally get negative items off of your credit report and keep them off. And we have a special code for a free consultation to see if we can help you. Text HP Credit to 737-4CREDIT. That's HP Credit to 737-427-3348. Let's get you back on the road to financial freedom.
Jay Finning here, and I want to tell you guys about 4Wheel Online. For over a decade, 4Wheel Online has been bringing the best truck accessories and truck parts to enhance the appearance and performance of all trucks and SUVs. They are dedicated to providing an extensive range of upgrades that will match any maker model on the road. Their truck products cover everything you need to give your truck a custom look and added functionality. And if you need a tire and wheel package, head over and use the configuration tool. They carry all the major brands of wheels and tires, so go get outfitters today. So visit them online at 4Wheel Online or call them at 813-769-2451. Again, that's 4 Wheel Online, the number 4 Wheel Online.